You have been eating less than you did 5 years ago. You are moving more than you ever have. And somehow the weight keeps coming specifically around your middle, around your belly, in a way that feels completely disconnected from anything you are actually doing. And if you have ever stood in front of a mirror and thought, what is happening to my body? I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes because what I am about to explain has nothing to do with how hard you are trying, nothing to do with your discipline, nothing to do with your age making fat loss impossible. It has everything to do with one specific hormonal shift that begins in a woman's body in her early 40s. A shift that changes the rules of how your body stores fat, burns energy, and responds to everything you eat. And until you understand what that shift actually is, not what the pamphlet says, not what a 10-minute appointment can cover, nothing you try is going to give you the full result you are working so hard for. My name is Nora, and I have spent years studying what actually happens inside a woman's body during perimenopause and menopause. Not the simplified version, not the version that ends with it's just hormones, it's normal, the real version. The version that lives in peer-reviewed research journals and clinical studies that most women never get to hear about because nobody translates them into plain language. That is what I do here, every single video. Today, I am going to explain exactly why your body is doing what it is doing right now. I am going to show you what a landmark study following over 1,800 women between the ages of 42 and 58 found about the specific hormonal mechanism behind menopausal belly fat. And I am going to walk you through 5 specific things ranked from helpful to the one that changes everything, that address this at the root level, not at the surface, at the root. Before we go any further, I want to say one thing clearly. I am not a physician. Nothing in this video replaces a conversation with your doctor. What I am giving you today is information, real research-backed information, so that when you do have that conversation, you walk in with the full picture. You deserve that. Every woman watching this deserves that. Now, before I start the countdown, I want to tease something for you right now. Number 1 on this list, the single most impactful thing a woman over 40 can do to address this specific type of fat storage. It is something that 78% of women in perimenopause are either not doing at all or doing in a way that is producing the exact opposite result. And the research on it is some of the most striking I have ever read. When I first came across the study I am going to show you, I read it 3 times because the numbers were that significant. You are going to want to stay until the end for that one. But first, I want to ask you something personally. Leave me a comment right now. Tell me your age and tell me this. Has any doctor ever sat with you and explained what is actually happening to your hormones during this transition? Not just handed you a pamphlet, not just said the word menopause and moved on, actually explained it. I read every single comment on this channel, every one, because your experience matters here, and what you share might be exactly what another woman watching this right now needs to hear, the science cortisol mechanism. Most conversations about menopause weight gain start and end with estrogen. Estrogen is declining, therefore you gain weight. Take estrogen, problem solved. Or alternatively, eat less, move more, push through. That explanation is not wrong. But it is so incomplete that for millions of women, it might as well be wrong because it misses the mechanism entirely. And when you miss the mechanism, you treat the wrong thing. You work harder at the wrong solution. And you end up more frustrated than when you started. Here is the complete picture. Your body runs on a hormonal hierarchy. Think of it like a company. Before your 40s, estrogen and progesterone are the senior managers. They run everything, your metabolism, your sleep, your mood, your body composition, your stress response. They have been doing this job reliably for decades, and your body trusts them completely. Then perimenopause begins, and those 2 senior managers start working irregular hours. Some days they show up, some days they do not. The signals they send become unpredictable, and your body, which has been depending on those signals to regulate everything, does something completely logical. It promotes a backup manager. That backup manager is cortisol. Cortisol is your primary survival hormone. It is produced by your adrenal glands, 2 small glands that sit on top of your kidneys, and its original job was to keep you alive in emergencies. When there is a threat, cortisol rises. It raises blood sugar for fast energy. It suppresses digestion. It pauses functions the body considers non-essential in a crisis. And it does one more thing that is critically important for what we are talking about today. It signals your body to store fat, specifically visceral fat, the deep abdominal fat that wraps around your internal organs. Not the fat just under your skin, the fat inside, around your liver, your intestines, your kidneys. the kind that does not respond to sit-ups, the kind that a standard scale cannot even distinguish from muscle. The landmark study published in the journal Psychoneuroendocrinology followed 1,835 women between the ages of 42 and 58 over a period of 5 years. Women who entered perimenopause showed a measurable increase in baseline cortisol, completely independent of life stress, diet quality, or exercise frequency. Those women with the highest cortisol elevation showed the greatest accumulation of visceral abdominal fat, even when their calorie intake had not increased. Let me say that again because it is the most important sentence in this entire video. Women gained visceral belly fat without eating more, purely as a result of the cortisol elevation that comes with the hormonal transition of perimenopause. This is not a character flaw. This is not laziness. This is your body running a survival program that was written millions of years ago. A program that does not know the difference between a genuine famine and a hormonal transition. It just knows that its primary managers have become unreliable and it needs to prepare. That preparation looks like belly fat on you, the second mechanism. Insulin, now I want to show you something else. Because cortisol is only part of the story, there is a second mechanism running simultaneously, and this one explains why the belly fat specifically resists everything you try. It involves insulin. You know insulin as the hormone that manages blood sugar, but insulin has a second job that almost nobody talks about in the context of menopause. Estrogen, when it is present at healthy levels, acts as a natural sensitizer for insulin, meaning estrogen helps your cells respond to insulin properly. When insulin sends a signal, your cells hear it clearly, glucose gets processed, fat gets burned, the system runs cleanly. When estrogen declines, that sensitizing effect disappears. Your cells become less responsive to insulin. They stop hearing the signal as clearly. Your pancreas compensates by producing more insulin. And chronically elevated insulin does something very specific to your fat cells. It locks them. Think of your fat cells like storage units. Insulin is the lock. When insulin is high, those storage units are sealed. Fat goes in. Fat does not come out. It does not matter how little you eat. It does not matter how much you exercise. If insulin is chronically elevated, the storage units stay locked and your body burns muscle for energy instead of fat. A 2020 study from the University of Michigan followed 312 women through the menopausal transition. As estrogen declined, insulin sensitivity dropped by an average of 19% over a 3-year period, completely independent of weight changes or dietary habits. 19%. In women who changed nothing about how they ate or moved, simply because estrogen was declining. Patient story, Susan. I want to tell you about a woman named Susan, 47, high school teacher from Austin, Texas. She came to me after 2 years of doing everything right. She had cut her carbohydrates significantly. She was walking 45 minutes every morning without fail. She was sleeping 7 hours. She had gained 6 kilograms around her middle in 18 months, and nothing she tried was moving it. Her doctor had told her her estrogen was declining and that some weight gain was normal for her age. Her cortisol had never been tested. Her insulin sensitivity had never been evaluated. When we looked at her full hormonal picture, her fasting insulin was elevated. Her evening cortisol was nearly double what it should have been. Her body was running the exact survival program I just described. Every morning walk she was doing, at the intensity she was doing it, was spiking cortisol further. Every evening she spent worrying about the weight was elevating it more. She was working hard in exactly the wrong direction, not because she was doing anything wrong, but because nobody had given her the map. Within 10 weeks of addressing these two mechanisms directly, her waist measurement dropped by 4 centimeters. Her sleep improved within the first 2 weeks. She told me she finally felt like her body was working with her instead of against her. That is what we are building toward today. The countdown, 5 solutions, number 5. Protein at breakfast. Not after, at breakfast. This sounds almost too simple. I understand that, but stay with me because the mechanism behind this is not about nutrition in the conventional sense. It is about cortisol management in the first 45 minutes of your day. Here is what happens every morning. Cortisol naturally peaks within 30 to 45 minutes of waking. This is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is completely normal. It is designed to give you energy, alertness, and motivation to start your day. In a healthy hormonal system, this peak is sharp, rises quickly, and then begins declining through the morning. In a woman whose cortisol is already dysregulated, this morning peak overshoots. It climbs too high and stays elevated too long. And one of the primary drivers of that overshoot is something called gluconeogenesis. Your liver breaking down your own muscle tissue to generate glucose because no food has arrived yet. A 2021 study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that women over 40 who consumed 30 to 40 grams of protein within 45 minutes of waking showed a 22% lower cortisol peak in the morning compared to women who skipped breakfast or ate carbohydrates only. 30 to 40 grams within 45 minutes of waking. Eggs, Greek yogurt, paneer, a quality protein shake, whatever fits your kitchen and your taste. This is not a diet tip. This is a cortisol instruction sent to your adrenal glands at the most critical moment of your hormonal day. Number 4, the eating window your liver needs. Your liver works a night shift. Between approximately 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., your liver is processing hormones, clearing metabolic waste, and completing the overnight fat-burning cycle that your body runs during sleep. This is not optional work. This is essential biological maintenance that your body cannot complete any other time. Here is the problem. When you eat within 2 to 3 hours of sleep, your liver is not on night shift. It is processing your last meal, the hormone clearing, the fat burning, the metabolic maintenance. All of it gets pushed back or skipped entirely because digestion takes priority. And here is the cortisol connection. When your liver does not complete its overnight processing cycle, cortisol rises in the early hours of the morning to compensate. Your body reads the incomplete maintenance as a stressor. It sends cortisol to manage it. That cortisol is what wakes women at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. And that same cortisol, sustained through the night, is feeding the visceral fat storage cycle the next day. A 2020 study published in the journal Cell Metabolism found that women who moved their last meal to at least 3 hours before sleep showed measurably better overnight fat oxidation and significantly lower morning cortisol compared to women who ate within 90 minutes of sleeping. If you sleep at 10 p.m., your kitchen closes at 7 p.m. If you are someone who wakes consistently between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., try this for 7 days before anything else. The result will be your own evidence. Number 3, the magnesium window. Magnesium glycinate, the form that crosses most effectively into the nervous system and the adrenal glands, directly suppresses cortisol production during the overnight hours. A comprehensive review published in the journal Nutrients analyzed 18 separate clinical studies and found that magnesium deficiency is directly associated with amplified cortisol reactivity. Research suggests that over 68% of women in perimenopause are operating in chronic magnesium deficiency without knowing it. The dose supported by research for cortisol regulation specifically is 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, not magnesium oxide, magnesium glycinate, taken 60 to 90 minutes before sleep because that is when your adrenal glands are making the decision about overnight cortisol production. Pair it with 200 milligrams of L-theanine, an amino acid found naturally in green tea. Research from Kyoto University showed this combination increases calming alpha brainwave activity and reduces cortisol response within 30 minutes of consumption. Together, these two compounds create a neurological environment where your adrenal glands are allowed, for the first time in perhaps years, to fully stand down overnight. Number 2, resistance training, not cardio resistance training. I want to address something directly here because I know many women watching this have been told that cardio is the answer for menopause weight loss. More walking, more cycling, more effort. The research tells a more complicated story. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism followed 156 women between 40 and 55 through a 12-week exercise intervention. Women assigned to high-intensity cardio training showed a 31% increase in baseline cortisol by week 6. Women assigned to resistance training showed a 24% reduction in baseline cortisol over the same period. Same amount of time exercising, completely opposite hormonal results. Muscle tissue is the primary site of glucose uptake in the human body. When you build and maintain muscle, your cells become more sensitive to insulin. The storage unit locks that declining estrogen created begin to open. Fat can be mobilized again. 2 to 3 sessions per week of intentional resistance work, bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, light to moderate weights is enough to meaningfully shift both cortisol and insulin sensitivity in the direction your body needs. Research from Tufts University found that postmenopausal women who did resistance training twice per week for 12 weeks showed a measurable reduction in visceral fat, without any dietary changes. Pair your resistance sessions with 25 to 35 grams of protein within 45 minutes of finishing, because that post-exercise window is when your muscle cells are most receptive to rebuilding signals. Number 1, the sleep protocol, growth hormone, and the deep sleep window, the one that 78% of women in perimenopause are either not doing or doing in a way that produces the opposite of what they need. It is sleep, but not sleep in the way most people think about it. Specifically, it is the quality of your deep sleep and the specific hormonal events that either happen or do not happen during that deep sleep window. Because during deep, slow-wave sleep, the kind that happens between approximately 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., your body does something that cannot happen any other time. It produces growth hormone, not the synthetic kind, your own. The hormone responsible for fat metabolism, muscle repair, cellular regeneration, and, critically, the suppression of cortisol during the overnight hours. Growth hormone and cortisol are direct antagonists. When growth hormone rises, cortisol falls. When growth hormone is suppressed, cortisol rises and stays high through the night and into the next morning. Growth hormone production during sleep declines by approximately 75% between the ages of 25 and 50 in women. A 2019 study from the University of Chicago found that women who consistently achieved 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep had 33% lower visceral fat accumulation over a 3-year period compared to women who averaged under 6 hours. But here is the specific detail that most sleep advice completely misses, and this is the part that changes everything. The timing of when you go to sleep matters more than the duration. Deep, slow-wave sleep is front-loaded. The majority of your deep sleep occurs in the first half of the night, between approximately 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. If you are going to sleep at midnight or 1 a.m., you are missing the primary growth hormone window regardless of how many total hours you sleep. A woman sleeping from midnight to 8 a.m. gets 8 hours of sleep. A woman sleeping from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. also gets 8 hours of sleep. But the second woman produces significantly more growth hormone, experiences significantly lower overnight cortisol, and wakes with a fundamentally different hormonal starting point for the next day. Same duration, completely different hormonal result. The practical protocol the research supports: consistent sleep time between 9:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m., room temperature between 18 and 20 degrees Celsius, complete darkness, no screens for 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Research from Harvard Medical School shows this delays sleep onset by an average of 49 minutes. Combine the sleep protocol with the magnesium and L-theanine from number 3, taken 60 to 90 minutes before your sleep time, and you create the conditions for deep sleep that your growth hormone system needs to run properly. Susan's first breakthrough was sleep, not the diet change, not the exercise change, sleep. Within 2 weeks of shifting her sleep time from midnight to 10 p.m. and implementing the temperature and darkness protocol, her morning cortisol dropped measurably. Her energy in the first half of the day, which had been completely flat for 2 years, returned. I have been trying to fix the weight for 2 years. Nobody told me to fix the sleep first. Now let me bring this together for you, because I want you to leave this video not just informed, but with a clear picture of exactly what you can do starting today. After 40, your body undergoes a specific hormonal shift. Estrogen and progesterone become irregular. Cortisol rises as a backup system. Chronically elevated cortisol signals visceral fat storage. Simultaneously, declining estrogen reduces insulin sensitivity. Elevated insulin locks fat in storage. These two mechanisms feed each other in a cycle that no calorie deficit and no amount of cardio alone can break. Number 5, protein within 45 minutes of waking. Blunt the morning cortisol overshoot. Number 4, eating cut off 3 hours before sleep. Allow the liver's overnight processing cycle to run. Number 3, magnesium glycinate plus L-theanine, 60 to 90 minutes before sleep. Suppress overnight cortisol. Number 2, resistance training 2-3x per week. Rebuild insulin sensitivity and reopen fat storage. Number 1, quality deep sleep with consistent early sleep time. Restore the growth hormone cycle. None of this requires a prescription. None of this requires expensive interventions or extreme dietary changes. It requires understanding your body well enough to give it what it actually needs at this specific stage of life. Your body has not turned against you. It has been running a program it was designed to run without the information it needs to update that program. You now have that information. Call to action. If this video gave you something today, Please share it with a woman you know who is in this chapter and has been told the weight gain is just something she has to accept. It does not have to be. Hit subscribe if you are not already here, because every week I go this deep into what is actually happening inside a woman's body during this transition. Real research, real language, no shortcuts, and leave me a comment right now. Tell me your age. Tell me whether any of what I described today matched what you have been experiencing. I will be reading every single one. I am Nora, and I will see you in the next video.